Hi there, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 339. I am Lisa, also known as FibreNymph on most of social media. Today is Sunday, June 7th. It is a lovely sunny day out there and I'm in my bedroom, which if you watched the YouTube live that I did last week, I was also here in my bedroom. Again, it just ended up being easy, plus it's way later in the day than I had hoped to be starting to record, and so the porch room is like an oven out there. And yeah, this was the easiest place to set up. And I'm really hoping that at some point in the middle of this video, my husband doesn't come around the corner outside on a giant ladder and show up to paint house parts, because that's going on right now, keeping our life interesting here at the Mountain House. Yeah, that's happening, and I could have gone outside and done another In the Woods podcast, but honestly, I didn't want to have to walk that far because I'm having crazy bad pain in my one hip. I sound like an old person, but you know that ligament that runs from like the point in your hip, like where your leg and your pelvis meet on your side, from there that runs kind of around the front, like in the crease of your leg down towards your groin. There's that ligament there. Mine, like every once in a while, gets super tight and flares up, and it like hurts when I'll stand up and put pressure on it, and all of a sudden it's like somebody's stabbing it. That has been going on, I'd say, for the past week, and I think it started because I started kayaking again, and just the way I sit in my kayak, I think sometimes aggravates that. But for whatever reason, today it's horrible, and I have been doing every stretch I know to do to loosen that up. And I mean, not just today I've been stretching, but today is just terrible. I really feel like I should be doing some yoga instead of recording, but I'm not. I'm recording right now. Maybe I'll do yoga when I'm done. Anyway, that's why I didn't tote everything down the hill into the woods, and we're here in my bedroom. Anyway, yeah, I have no idea what you can see in the background. I had to move a bunch of stuff so you didn't see quite how messy it is in here. Well, it's not super messy, but there's stuff. And thankfully, it's not close enough that you can see any dust, because there's a lot of dust. This room needs dusted. Anyway, I have a lot of crafty content for you today, and I have drawing winners to announce, and I have... Oh, that's a cat. I heard a noise. I thought, oh, please don't let that be Bill with the ladder already. And I have shop news to talk about. But I am going to start with a little bit of talk about current events, because I don't think I could do this podcast and ignore that. So hopefully you'll be willing to hang in here with me for a few minutes while I share some thoughts with you. Speaking of the live that I did last Sunday for the Splash Pad Party kickoff, I had done an Ask Me Anything post on Instagram like the evening before, and just said, you know, if there's something specific you'd like me to talk about or answer while I'm doing the live, let me know. And I did get a few questions. One of the questions I got was, what was my view, what did I think about the protests that were going on? That's a paraphrase of the question, but that was basically what I was asked. And the protests in question obviously are the ones that have been going on now for almost 2 weeks, about the murder of George Floyd by the police. And at the time, whenever I was recording last week, I answered by saying that, you know, I thought protesting is a good thing. I think we need our voices to be heard. Violent protests or protests that start, you know, looting and things like that, I said I didn't think were necessarily great, because I didn't see violence redeeming violence. That was my feeling, and I stand by that. I don't think violence redeems violence directly, but in the time since I've given that answer, I have had time to think about it more and just ponder the whole situation, and also do some I've been doing a lot of reading and a lot of listening, audiobooks, videos, things like that. Some of which I will include in the show notes in case you're interested and would like to see them for yourself. But I have two other points that I think I want to add to that answer now this week. And the one is that peaceful protests, as much as I think they're beneficial, I realize they're not always heard. The message isn't always heard. Loud gets your attention, right? And I think that's pretty evident just by the fact that if you're watching the news, what is the news covering for the most part? They're pointing out the not peaceful protests, right? You're seeing the looting, the ones where there's violence, whether it's on the side of the police or the protesters first, the ones that have some element of violence, that's what's hitting the news. And so I was just reading an article today about like how many peaceful protests have been taking place all across the country. And also outside of the United States, but I'm talking specifically about the United States right now, in small towns, like not even just all the big towns, but like small little, out in the middle of nowhere towns having these protests. And by and large, they are peaceful protests. It's people wanting to make their support known for the Black Lives Matter movement, for speaking up against police brutality and things, and murder by police of Black people and people of color, because they're the ones who overwhelmingly are targeted. But you don't hear about that on the news. That's not what makes headlines. So that would be my first point. I understand now a little bit better that, as nice as it would be if everybody could just quietly protest and have their message heard, that doesn't always happen. And the other thing is that I am a 53-year-old white woman who has largely lived most of my life in rural, predominantly white areas. I do not have a perspective from which to come at this topic that would allow me to see this the way someone who is a Black person has been dealing with it their entire life, like from day one. Being white, being a white woman, being in a rural area that's mostly white, that comes with a lot of privilege. Just being a white person in general comes with privilege. It's built into our system. It's built into how our country was formed. And that is something that I've learned a lot more about over the past year or so. Remember last year when all of this came up in the fiber community and everybody was just, why can't we just get back to knitting? Well, this is why. Because it's not just about knitting, it's about life, and knitting is a part of life, but racial injustice is also a part of life, and they all need to be addressed. So anyway, my point, I got diverted there a minute, but me as a white woman, I cannot speak to the experience of a Black person, a Black woman, anyone. I can't. So my final reasoning on this is, who am I to tell Black people how they should be protesting? Like, that isn't my place. I can't think of anything that has happened in my life where, no matter how wrong or how frustrating it might have been, where I wasn't able to seek resolution in a non-violent way. I may not have gotten the result that I wanted, but I did not have to resort to protesting in the streets or, getting loud and violent in a public way. I've never been faced with that. So I can't envision that. And until I could envision that, I don't think I have the voice to say, oh, you shouldn't do that. Because that's not me. That's not what I can say. Am I making sense? Like, I don't have a place to say that to someone else who has lived a completely different experience than I have. So I guess those are just the two additions that I want to add to my answer that I gave last week, if you watched that. I will say that I do stand behind the whole Black Lives Matter movement. I am fully in support of that. I am not a protester. I don't go out and protest. Not that I have much of an opportunity, because there haven't been any near me. I'm not sure if I would partake in that or not because I don't think it's a good thing, but just because that's not me. I tend to address things differently if I can. And largely what I'm doing right now is I'm reading and I'm listening to people who have had these experiences, and I'm trying to learn and become better equipped to be a good ally to the people of color in this world who deserve, unquestionably deserve to have the same existence as anyone else, because white is not better. And that is something that I've known since I was a small child. And that's a whole other story. And I could probably talk for the whole rest of the podcast about certain things that I have experienced that help me illuminate this issue. But I won't, because that isn't why we're here. But I wanted to at least start out by sharing those thoughts. I will also share about my manicure. Bill and I like to watch Stephen Colbert. We usually watch in the morning, though, because we're never up that late. And he interviewed Cory Booker last week, and that was a wonderful interview. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend watching it. But, you know, in talking about what's happening, you know, Cory Booker made the comment about we need to become a nation of love. And he almost said it's a little bit apologetically for sounding so saccharine, but, you know, you could tell he meant it. And I really admire him. I think he's so well-spoken. But anyway, my manicure was sort of inspired by what he said, because I'm calling this my Black Lives Matter manicure, which I did myself. It's not like I went out and got a manicure, but, yeah. I don't know. Can you see little hearts and the love? Black Lives Matter. And so, and this isn't just like a trite thing, like, oh, look at my manicure, it's about Black lives. No, that's not it. Every time I look at my manicure, I'm reminded of that interview, and I'm reminded of what he said, and I'm reminded of some other interviews or messages that I've heard lately, and it's really encouraged me to continue listening and continue seeking out the stories of Black people and what their experience has been, because that's the only way I'm going to learn, is by making a point of listening. And so this is just sort of a visual reminder to me this week to keep doing that, because I think it's important. So that's what I was going to say at the beginning. And so now we are going to move on. Yeah, so I have, I'm hoping I'm not even sure I finished my show notes, to be honest with you. I may have to stop and finish them at some point here before I finish the podcast. But I do have some finished objects to share with you. I've got some works in progress. I have some on deck items. I have a prize winner for the Leftovers Challenge, which ended today, right before I started recording. I closed that thread. I'll talk a little bit about my Stash Dash progress. And I'll mention 20 and 20. Then I've got some 10% for you, and I've got some shop news. So let's see how we can do to get through all of this. Okay, so first up, I have my half a granny square crocheted shawl. It's finished, and I'm so in love with it. I did show this on the YouTube live last week, so if you're feeling a moment of deja vu here, that might be why. But I haven't shown it on the regular podcast yet, so here it is. It's humongous. It exceeds my wingspan in length. I'm 5'4", so it's probably at least 6 feet. I haven't measured it yet. And when I wrap it around myself, the center, the point goes down below my butt. So I decided it was big enough. I think it is, I want to say I did like 54 or 56 rows, I think, including these first 3 setup rows. This is a pattern by Church Mouse Yarns and Tees, It's a free pattern. If you go to their website, you can download it for free. I think you have to sign up for their newsletter, but otherwise it's a free pattern. I used, these were all DK and worsted weight scraps of my Fiber Nymph Dye Works yarns. So this includes my Bonafide and Beguiled DK weights. Beguiled is the sparkly one. Bonafide is the non-sparkly. This, like this silver here, this was a sparkly. And then there's also some worsted weight in here as well. I would say at least 2/3 of it though was DK weight. So, and my worsted weight base is cozy. So anyway, it's done. It used just shy of 6 full skeins weight-wise. It was 581 grams of yarn. So that, I averaged that out based on how much DK versus worsted I thought I used. And it's just over 1,300 yards. So it's a pretty good size. I think I'm going to put together some kits for the shop that have like a whole bunch of different colors. I did go through and count how many different colors I used. I don't remember right off the top of my head. It was something like 20 or 24 different colors. So I think I'm going to do some, oh, I'm so sorry. I just kicked the camera. I think I'm going to do some sets that have like small amounts of all those colors. That you could make one of these if you wanted to, or you could do anything you wanted with it. But I've heard from some people saying, oh, that's really cool, I'd like to make one, but they don't have, you know, that many scraps, like DK or worsted weight scraps in solid colors to do that. Someone did mention you could hold 2 fingering weights together and do it, and that's absolutely true. You could do that. But yeah, I might put together some kits. We'll see. Stay tuned for that. But anyway, I'm really glad to have this done. This will be stash dash yardage, by the way, so that, or meterage. That'll be exciting. I'm really not focusing on meters this year for stash dash. I'm doing it, but I'm doing it more as a way to get certain projects done rather than trying to accomplish large quantities of meters. But at any rate, it counts as one of my stash dash projects. So that is my first finished object this week. I have to keep looking around because I have everything laying on the bed around me. My second finished object is actually something that you haven't seen in progress, and it's this cowl. And this was a test knit that I did for Sarah Jordan, who is PA Knitwit, but from Knitwit Designs. She's also a member of our group, so hi Sarah. Anyway, she was working on this, and you know, she decided she would write it up as a pattern, and so I offered to test knit it for her. It's a really fun slip stitch motif and super potato chippy. Like, it's really one of those very memorizable, very easy to do patterns that you just want to keep going on because it's so much fun. And it's especially wonderful for self-striping yarn. So if you've got like a partial skein of self-striping and you don't know what to do with it, this would be a great thing to do. I used 256 yards. I had a partial skein of, this is Ultimatum, which was my colorway that I did for oh my gosh, Needles Up, sorry, Needles Up Rhinebeck last fall, which I will have in the shop closer to the end of summer this year, I think. I will put this color up, but I had, you know, I had knit a sample of that colorway, and so I had most of a skein left, so I decided to use it for this, and it was just so much fun. Now, the only modification I had to make on this too, I had to go down in needle size because I'm a loose knitter. We know this. So I did go down to US 1.5s to knit this. And the other thing is I did it about 1.5 inches less of this slip stitch motif than she had called for in the pattern, just because I don't have a particularly long neck. And I find that when I get super, super long cowls, it doesn't really do much for me. This is a perfect length. Like this is so nice and cozy, and this will be great to wear in the winter, you know, and I could pull it up over my face, and my face will be warm. It's long enough for that. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. And the other fun thing about it is she points out that if you weave in your ends super carefully, and I did, I wove them in like right along the top edge, you can actually wear it inside out too, and it looks really cool. Look how neat that is. And you can see, let's see, I'm not sure if that's where I did it. Yep, that was actually my beginning of round. But yeah, look how neat that is. Really fun texture on both sides. So anyway, I'm not going to say the name of it because it is still a test knit. It's not published yet, and I don't know if she'll end up changing the name or not. I mean, I assume she won't, but just in case, I won't tell you the name of it yet. But stand by for that to be published, and once it is, I will definitely let you know because it's a really fun pattern, and I think you might enjoy it. So that is my other finished object for this week. Moving on, I do have some works in progress that I will show you, and the first one is one that you've already seen once, and it is my Shortie socks. And I did not bring a sock blocker in, so you're just going to see it like this. But the first one is finished. And this is my Leading Men Fiber Arts yarn that I'm using. This is their Showstopper base. This really pretty berry color is Raspberry Parfait, and this is Cherry Blossoms, this speckled color. So that's my first Shortie sock that is finished. It fits fine. I do wish I would have made the cuff part maybe another half an inch to an inch taller. I always forget that. I make them short, but this comes up to my ankle bone, and I like the ribbed part to be above my ankle bone. And it's not quite there, so it's fine though. I mean, they fit, they're not going to fall off or anything. It's just more of a comfort thing in wearing it. But the first one is finished, and the second one is underway. Matter of fact, I just finished the heel flap a little earlier today. So the heel flap and turn is done. So I'm going to switch back to the Cherry Blossoms yarn and pick up for the gusset and start doing the gusset decreases and then the foot. So I originally mentioned that I might switch this up and do the second sock, all, you know, the body of it in the Raspberry Parfait, and then do the cuff, the heel cuff and toes in the Cherry Blossom. Obviously, I chose not to do that. I had plenty of yarn left to do it the same way, so I am. No biggie. It'll be a matching pair. This is just honestly my default plain vanilla sock pattern, just made with a really short cuff, over 60 stitches, 2x1 rib on US 1 needles. So nothing exciting about that. It's just super pretty, and I love those yarn colors so much. I'm enjoying an old-fashioned this afternoon. Just so you know. There's cherry in it too. Alright, I did cast on something from my on deck that I talked about last time, and I cast on my Weekender. Finally, I cast on my Weekender. I'm so excited. So here, before I show you the sweater, I'll show you the pattern in case you aren't familiar with it. It's the Weekender Pullover by Andrea Mallory. Let's see, is there... I didn't print out like the page that has the super huge picture on it, so... But you might recognize that picture with the shoulder detail. So this is a sweater that is knit... Essentially it's knit inside out because you're just going around and around and around in stockinette stitch. Doing a slip stitch detail up the center of the front and the center of the back, but then it actually is worn inside out. You get to a point where you're you know, stopping and dividing for the front and the back so you can have armholes. And at that point, I think that's when you flip it inside out. But anyway, this is how it looks right at the moment. So this is the stockinette side, and isn't it pretty? Oh gosh, I just love these colors. This is my combo spin that I finished early last year, I believe. So many colors, and you might remember when I first started talking about this, I wasn't sure if I was going to knit this just using one ball at a time, or if I was going to use 2 balls and alternate so I could do a fade, because I wasn't sure that I wanted to end up with these big chunks of color the way I'm ending up with them. And I'm still kind of torn. I mean, I like how this looks a lot, but they are big chunks of color, so it's going to kind of look like a big wide striped sweater. But the thing is, each ball looks different. Now this is my second ball. I just started this one, I think I was right at the end of the red going into the blue. I think like the beginning of the blue was the old ball, and then I purposely started with a ball that had blue in the center to carry on. But some of the balls look very, very different. Let's see. Like this one has a lot of the same colors. Some of them are very large balls. There was one, oh, here it is. Like this one has a lot of this gold color in it. So that's, I mean, there's some in this one too. So I guess if I maybe wait and do this one a little further up, it'll space it out a little. I don't know. I don't even know that it matters. So I think had I, yeah, see this one also has a lot of that gold in it. I think if I had done what I originally thought about and alternated skeins, I definitely would have a different look than I have, but I'm not unhappy with it. And then the other part of that is it is meant to see the reverse stockinette side. That is actually the outside part of the sweater that you'll see when you're wearing it. And I think it looks a lot different. Like you can still see those big chunks of color, but I don't think it's quite as in your face as a big stripe of color. And there you can see that slip stitch detail, which I just love. I think it looks so pretty. So anyway, I'm really happy with this. I'm having so much fun just knitting it, and I love knitting with this yarn. It is so delightful. It's soft, it's squishy. Several of the skeins of yarn that I used for that combo spin had silk in them, so it's got some sheen to it. It's just a very, very enjoyable project to be working on. It does have a split hem, and I did actually go ahead and make the front a little bit shorter than the back, which was how it was written. You can't really see it much right there just because of the way it's hanging, but I would say the back is probably going to end up about ½ an inch longer than the front. I don't remember if that's what it was supposed to be or not, but that's kind of how it is. I figured I could deal with that for this. This did call for a tubular cast on, and my first thought was, I'm not doing that. And then I thought, you know what? Yes, I am. Stop being lazy. Because that's all it was. It was just sheer laziness at not wanting to learn how to do a tubular cast on. And I thought that's silly. So I went online, and Andrea Mallory actually has a tutorial video on how to do tubular cast-ons, and I watched it, and I was like, I can do that. And so I did, and I got it the first time. It is fiddly, but it's not difficult. And I really enjoyed doing it. Now, she did mention that it's easier to do if you do it on like a straight knitting needle as opposed to a circular. I did it on the circular, and it was fine. And when I did it for the second, like for the, you do the back and then the front, I think. When I did the second one, I was actually, it was easier. Although the second one I had to start 3 times because I did have issues. I was trying to multitask. I couldn't multitask, but I got to the point where I could see what the stitches were supposed to be doing and how to knit them or how to work them as you go across. Because it's like a 3-row setup to do the tubular cast on. But it was fine. Like I did it and I didn't have a problem. My one thing I did do wrong, and I didn't fix it because I didn't realize it until I was a little into it, was when I was joining to knit in the round. I swear I knit the first round okay, but then somehow between the first round and the second round, I got it twisted. So it was almost as if I hadn't joined in the round. And so then the next time through, I had to twist it back. So my hem in one spot does have this odd little twist. Which side is it on? Yeah, it's right here. And I don't know that you'll even be able to see it. Like, I'm holding it weird, but like it's right there. And the only reason I know it's there is because this wants to kind of flip up a tiny bit. I'm hoping that'll block out because I'm certainly not ripping all this out now. I think if worse comes to worse, if it doesn't want to settle down when I block it, I will snip that and make it lay right. I will force it into submission. So anyway, it's fine. I'm really having a good time working on this. This is a very good mindless knitting project right now. So my husband and I were sitting here last night. We watched like 3 episodes of Space Force on Netflix. Have you guys watched that yet? Oh my gosh, so hilarious. Although we were on episode 6. I think we watched episodes 6, 7, and 8. And by number 8, it got a little, there's an odd story twist going on now. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but anyway, Steve Carell is in it. I love Steve Carell. So anyway, that was my knitting while we were watching that show. So, what else have I worked on? Oh, I worked on, I was excited because I forgot about it, my Lost in Time show. Remember, I was crocheting, and I hadn't worked on this in a while just because it's something I really need to be able to focus on. I can't be watching a podcast. I can't be talking to my husband. I have to just be working on this. But here it is so far. It's got all the ends that need to be woven in because I've been switching colors now. But yeah, here it is. So this is by Joanna Lindahl. And I am almost through the whole first repeat of the pattern. And then you go back through and you can repeat it as many times as you want. Like there's 10 rows that you repeat to make it as big as you want before you do the bottom, the border rows. So anyway, yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I think it's so pretty, and I'm just so proud of myself for learning all this crochet stuff to make this. So look at me learning new things, crochet stitches and tubular cast-ons. It's just amazing. So anyway, there we go. The yarn I am using is Fiber Nymph Dye Works Sunshine in one of my gradients. So I'm using a double gradient, and obviously I'm not using it as the colors are coming off the ball. I did start with that first tealish bluey green, but then I got down here and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be very boring if I'm just using the same color till I get to the next one. So that's when I started doing a lot of color management. So I've basically been just winding off the colors from the gradient to use them sort of as minis as I go. You could totally do this shawl in minis or leftovers, or if you have a gradient laying around, you could do that. I mean, it would be really pretty knit in a gradient the whole way. And this was one of the double gradients, which I've now wound into the second segment of the blue. And it would be fine. I was just bored doing it all in one color, so that's why I decided to switch it up. And I like it that way. So I do have a second one of these in reserve in case I end up running out of the blue, because I think that's the color I probably will run out of before anything else, since I'm using it sort of as a main color and then alternating other things in there. So anyway, really enjoying it. So that's the only, oh, and I'm using a G hook. Yeah, I think the pattern maybe calls for an H hook, but I couldn't find my H hook, so I used a G, and it's working out fine. Let's see, that's everything I've worked on really this past week. I do still want to start the crocheted cardigan. Remember, I showed it to you last week. I don't remember any of the details. Look at last week's show notes, or I'll put it in this week's show notes. But there's that crocheted cardigan that I was going to start. I was going to do it, alternating it with just a plain white, like my plain vanilla colorway, and alternating it with minis, like leftover scraps. But I wanted them to be like solid colored scraps so I could get an entire row out of a solid color. I still have not had the time to look through my big box of minis, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I don't think I have a whole lot of minis that are all just solid colors. Most of my minis are either variegated or they are self-striping, because that's what I have a lot of leftovers of. So I need to look at the pattern a little more closely and see what kind of yardage it requires to get a stripe in. I'm hoping it tells me that. And what I may end up doing instead of using my leftovers is I might do it using my minis, because you know I have all the minis in the shop now, and I think maybe I will try that. Maybe I'll do it kind of as a show sample or something, you know, where I have a crochet, kind of almost like a mini sampler cardigan. I don't know. We'll see. That's my thought right now, though. But I haven't started it, mainly because, number one, I have the weekender started, and number two, my crochet energy is going into that shawl, so I'm not feeling the need to have another granny item going on right this moment. So there's that. Then the other thing that is on deck for me right now is through the loops, Kirsten Kapoor has started her shawl mystery knit along, and I have not done one of her mystery knit alongs in years. But I saw somebody talking about it. Matter of fact, it might have been Sarah, PA Knitwit, on Instagram, I think, a while back. And I purchased the pattern on a whim. I decided to sign up and buy the pattern, and I have not started it yet. It started last Sunday, last weekend. Yeah, the second clue might have come out today. I don't know. I haven't checked. But anyway, I do have my yarn picked for it, and I'm using 2 of the colors from my new Color Play number 3 collection. I'm using Loam, which is the brown, and then I'm using the speckled version, the full skein speckled. Now, the notes about the pattern, she said she didn't recommend a speckled yarn for this particular pattern because it's a lace motif. But I'm hoping she meant more like really heavily like variegated yarns that have a lot of speckling in them that are really busy. I feel like this is almost like a semi-solid. It's so lightly speckled. And it's a light color, so I'm really hoping that'll work out. But I really like these 2 together. And so this is what I'm going to use once I actually get to start that shawl. And I would like to start it soon. I know I won't keep up with the mystery knit along. I'm horrible at mystery knit alongs, which is why I don't do them very often. But I'd like to give it a try. I have not knit lace, like a legit lace thing, in a really, really long time. I used to knit a lot of lace. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I'll get that started maybe before the next time I podcast. Okay, and then the only other on deck thing that I have is I still have not warped my little loom, but I'm planning to, and I've decided instead of what I was going to do, the Malabrigo. I have 2 Malabrigo skeins that I've been holding on to that I want to make another fringy cowl. Matter of fact, I might have mentioned that last time, but instead I'm going to weave with these yarns. This is Onxy Fiber Arts yarn. I don't have my glasses on, so give me a second. It's the Nova worsted base. Okay, wait. Nova might be the colorway. Sorry. I think it is. Nova is probably the color. It's a worsted base, so maybe that's just the name of the base, is worsted. At any rate, these I got from my FibreShare partner. A few weeks ago I got the package. I don't think I showed you guys everything. Did I even mention it? I think I might have mentioned it, but I didn't get to show it to you. Sorry. Things are a little scattered sometimes. But anyway, these were 2 of the skeins she sent me, and aren't they beautiful? Oh my gosh. Just love, love, love this purple. Look at that color. Amazing. So Tammy, if you're watching, thank you again. And I had told her when I opened this, I said I can totally see this as one of my cowls. So that's what I'm going to weave this into, and I can't wait. So I think this is going to be going on the loom in short order. So that's my only other on deck item. So that moves me up to, or moves us up to the leftovers challenge, which ended today. I locked the thread right before I started to record, and that was something that I was running most of last month up until now. It was just a challenge for you to see what you could make using any leftover yarn scraps that you happen to have around. Didn't have to be a certain size. It could be big, small, it could be fiber and fabric yarn, it could be other yarn. It didn't really matter. I kind of was considering it a sub challenge to to your 20 and 20, which was actually kind of silly because you did not have to be doing the 20 and 20 to be involved in this. I was just sort of confused when I set that up, I think. I could have set it up differently, but I didn't. At any rate, leftovers challenge. We ended up with 24 entries for the leftovers challenge, and random number generator chose post number 11, who is M's Little Nest, and that is Emma. So congratulations, Emma. You are the winner of the leftover challenge. She did this adorable little pair of self-striping baby leg warmers. Oh my gosh, so cute. Anyway, Emma, you have your choice from these two skeins here, which are also from my Color Play number 3 collection. So these are the variegated version of that colorway, and this is the sunshine base, and this is the poof base, which has the little slubs on it. So you can pick whichever one of these you would like. Let me know, and please PM me with your mailing information, and tell me which one you want, and I'll send it your way. So yay, congratulations. And thank you for taking part. Thank you everybody who took part in that. It's so much fun. I love using leftovers. Oh my gosh. This seems to be my year of using leftovers. I feel like I've been using them for so many projects. Yeah, so let's see, Stash Dash, which is not a knit along I run. That's from the Knit Girls, Leslie and Laura. They do that every summer. I'm just taking part kind of loosely this year. I've done it sort of hardcore in the past, but this year, again, I'm just doing it mainly as a motivator for me to get specific projects off my to work on list. And right now, between the shawl and the cowl, which are my 2 finished objects so far, I'm up to 1,493 meters. I have not declared meterage that I want to get to. I did make a list. I did, after I did the podcast last time, I made a list of the projects that I thought I wanted to try to complete over the summer, but I never sat down and figured out what I thought the yardage or the meterage would be for them, so I didn't really, I didn't go to the group and decide which group I was going to try to join for that, which you don't have to, like, you can just loosely do it, and you can check that out if you want to be a part. Like, it's a very low stress knit along to be a part of. It's actually very, very fun. I've done it many years, so check that out. But they have just like a general kind of chatter thread for it, for people who aren't declaring a level of meterage, or who haven't yet and aren't going to do it until the end or something. I don't know. Or you can join, like, say you want to knit like 5,000 meters over the summer. You can join that group and declare that as your level. Although once you declare it, you have to stay there. Like, you can't switch to something else later on. So it's whatever works for you, really. As for 20 and 20, which I said, like, my projects that I want to work on for Stash Dash, a lot of them are going to be coming from my 20 and 20 list. The 20 and 20 challenge is still going on all year round in our group, all year this year in our group. And June is the final month of the second quarter. So if you are doing that, you can get ready. As of July 1st, I will unlock the lists again, and you can update them with things that you've gotten finished. You can change the goals that you have on your 20 and 20 list or lists and make whatever changes you need to make. And I will also draw a second quarter winner or winners in July, like the first podcast in July. So you can be looking forward to that. I think that's everything I've got for 90%. Let's talk about 10%. In addition, well, I already said, I've been reading a lot of stuff on the topics of racism and anti-racism and white supremacy. And, I will just say, too, I know that term really, like, raises people's hackles sometimes, white people's hackles, when black people talk about white supremacy, because I think, and I'm saying this from both my own perspective and from what I've observed in other people, I think the first instinct we have, or that I've found happening in myself, is to construe that to mean white supremacy is purposely doing overtly, horribly racist things. I think that is the very first thing you think of. And so, of course, everybody's like, I'm not racist. I'm not a white supremacist. But what I've come to learn recently is kind of like an aha moment, actually, is like, that's not, I mean, yes, it can mean that, but that is not necessarily what that means. White supremacy just means that in this, not just, I shouldn't minimize it by saying just, it's big. Like, in our society, being white gives you power, because that is how things were set up. So from the day you were born as a white person, you had a wealth of benefits that were going to be afforded to you just because of the color of your skin. Period. It's nothing you're doing on purpose. It's just who you are. The same way black people from the day they were born, they have that deck stacked against them. Not because of anything they did, just because of the color of their skin. That was a big aha moment for me in the course of over the past year. It's slowly been building, but like I feel like some stuff that I read over the past couple of weeks has been like, oh, okay, now I get that. And it shouldn't be that difficult, but it is. And honestly, I will say it's Layla Saad's book, Me and White Supremacy, which I read. I downloaded it last year. She had offered it like as a free download, and I had it. And I know I started it. I was having a really hard time connecting with it, like getting into it. I don't know why. And I'm sure it was some sort of wall within myself that was keeping me from really connecting with the material. But recently I realized, like, Audible has been sending out book lists and stuff, and like there's tons of books on racism and anti-racism and white supremacy and things like that, those topics. And her book is now an audiobook, and she reads it. It's brief. It's like 5 hours or something, but it's meant to be worked on over the course of 28 days also. And you do get the download material along with it on Audible. But she reads it, and so I used one of my credits and I got it because, again, I do a lot of my reading via audiobook while I'm working. And so I started listening to it the other day, and it was kind of, again, it wasn't purposeful, but I knew I was feeling kind of tense, like, okay, she's going to like be really accusatory and make me feel like a horrible person. And you know what? No, that wasn't the experience I had in listening to that book. Listening to it in her voice and her reading her material was such a different experience for me. It was like, oh, I think maybe that was the aha moment, actually, for me. It wasn't the aggressive tone that I was reading it in my head when I was just reading the material. It was inordinately caring and patient, and like there's nothing that requires her to be that way, because she's dealt with racism her entire life, so she has every right to not be that way. But the way she shares that information in that book, reading it herself, it really resonated with me. Like, that's what got me to like let my guard down and really start to take in the information that she was saying. And part of me is really, really embarrassed that it took that long and took that for me to be able to get to that point. But part of me is really glad. A big part of me is glad that I did get to that point, you know. And so I'm working my way through that book very slowly. I'm not doing it one day at a time. I'm really trying to take my time and think about it. And she, you know, gives you journaling prompts, and I'm really trying to put work into that and make it count. So anyway, that's just one of the many things I've been reading and listening to, but I thought I would mention that. Another really, well, I already mentioned the Cory Booker interview, but Trevor Noah has, I guess it was probably from his show, at least I think it was, because he's recording from home like so many of the late night hosts are. I will link to the YouTube video that he put out about, you know, about racism and everything that's going on right now. He is so well spoken. I love listening to Trevor Noah. He is such an intelligent man. You know, and he grew up under apartheid in South Africa, so he has, you know, a whole other experience, not just here in the United States. And that's been, I've Born a Crime was his memoir, and I read that a couple of years ago. That was very, very eye-opening too. Anyway, so that's some of the stuff I've been reading. Aside from that, my daughter and I got our garden planted last weekend, which was very exciting. Things are sprouting. We've got flowers. We planted flowers all around the perimeter, like plants that we bought, but we also planted sunflower seeds and zinnia seeds, and they're all coming up. We've got some squash seeds that are coming up, and then we put in a lot of herb plants that we bought, and tomato plants and pepper plants. So everything right now is growing. Nothing has died yet. So fingers crossed that we'll be able to keep that going. As I said earlier, we have started the house improvement shenanigans. My husband's been outside painting all the hard places. My daughter painted some of the trim. He and I have been doing planning, which is sort of painful sometimes because he and I go about this very, very differently. Much the way we do whenever we're like planning a vacation. Oh my gosh. We come at things so differently. But anyway, yeah, so we're planning the deck. He's got a big shopping trip planned for that soon. I made chickpea burgers for dinner the other night. Oh my gosh, they were so good. The only thing I have to figure out, it was a vegan recipe, but I ended up having to add an egg to it to get them to stick together. And I don't know why. I've had this issue making other chickpea things whenever you cook like I cook dried chickpeas and use those as opposed to buying canned chickpeas. So a lot of recipes calls for the canned chickpeas, and I don't know if maybe it's the fact that canned chickpeas are maybe moister, more moist, more squishy. I don't know. I've never used canned chickpeas. I don't tend to use canned beans a lot. So I don't know if maybe had I used canned, they would have held together better without the egg, because obviously being a vegan recipe, they did not call for an egg. The egg did help though. So I don't know, but they were very, very good. Oh my gosh, so tasty. Yeah. And then on a kind of sad note, we lost one of our cats this week. Max passed away in his sleep Friday night. Bill found him yesterday morning when he got up. We knew he wasn't right. Like I would say, maybe not even a whole week. He was an older cat. I think he was like 12 or 13, which isn't super old for a cat, but he was older, and he did not eat a lot, like ever. Like he was just not a big eater of a cat. He was very, very fluffy, but weighed like next to nothing. But he was acting odd. Like he wasn't in pain and he wasn't in obvious distress or anything, but he was more sedentary than usual, and he seemed like he was sort of breathing a little heavier than usual, but it was also really hot, and he's so furry, we thought, well, maybe he's just, hot. But then Friday evening we looked, and he was really seeming like he was kind of struggling, and we thought, okay, we're going to keep an eye on him, and if we need to, we're going to take him to the vet, and, because, it was later in the day. We couldn't have done anything Friday night, and then Saturday morning he was gone. So poor Max. He was a good kitty. He was our scaredy cat. Everything frightened Max, but he was so friendly, and he loved jumping up and being on the table while I was trying to knit, and he would try to play with the yarn, knead my boobs, and he was my buddy early on when I came up here. So anyway, we'll miss Max. Okay, lastly we have shop news, and I just lost my show notes. Hang on a sec. Here we go. So first thing in shop news, I want to let you know that the Holiday Pops mini countdown collections are now open for pre-order. Those opened June 1st. They're going to be open the entire month of June, so you have plenty of time, but if you would like to sign up for those, you can do so. There's this page on the website. So go to the www.fibrenymph.com website, and you'll see at the top a link for holiday minis. I don't know. I don't remember what we named it, like on the top of the page. Oh, poo. Hang on a second. I should have gone to the site first. Holiday Pops Minis is the link at the top. Or if you're at the main page, you'll also see the big banner. Just click on that. That'll take you to the information page. It'll tell you all of the different options there are for them. There are a whole bunch of different yarn options, as well as 2 fiber options this year. So you can read all about those, see all the prices. The shipping is included in the price this year. So if you choose to do the full payment, I think my husband might be out on the deck. If you do the full payment up front, you'll get the 10% off, and that will include off of your shipping, which it has not in the past. So that's something a little different this year. Anyway, you can go there, and there's also a link to the sign-up form for that. And once you submit your sign-up form, I will get back with you within 24 hours with your confirmation letter and payment information. So yeah, check that out if you would like to join us for the holiday mini fun this year. I'm looking forward to it because I'm going to remember to dye myself a collection this year as well. Okay, so I'm just realizing this is the point in my show notes where I did not finish writing them, so I'm just going to be winging this part. My Color Play number 3 collection is out. I did do a video about those, so hopefully you've seen that. If not, take a peek. It's really quick. And they're all up in the shop, and they are all dye to order. So you can get them on a variety of different yarn bases, and I'm getting those shipped out pretty darn quick. So yeah, I'm not going to show them to you all again since I've already shown them. I may insert a picture here if I remember, but they're all in the shop right now, Color Play number 3. The other thing that's also in the shop is my Splash Pad Party exclusive colorway, which is Bright Spots, which I do believe I showed you that before. I know, well, I may have just remembered it from showing you last week during the live. Oh my gosh, I've done so many extra videos lately, the little extra videos, that I can't remember what I showed you when. Anyway, here's a skein of the colorway, actually. But there's a sample of it knit up in the listing as well. So that is available. What else? The game night colorways are still there. Still doing those as dye to orders. Oh, this week I did. See, this is why I need to write these things out. I had a Throwback Thursday colorway this week, which was Soft Kitty. Some of you might remember that one. That's a way, way back colorway. And I did that one as, it was in stock as my Throwback Thursday colorways will be. They sold out super quickly, but I did it as a fundraiser for the Loveland Foundation's Therapy Fund. The Loveland Foundation provides financial assistance to Black women and girls who are seeking therapy to help them get the assistance they need. It is incredibly more difficult for Black people in general to take advantage of mental health help when they need it, or to even find a therapist that they can feel comfortable about, who understand. You know, if you've ever done therapy or anything, or gone to see a counselor, or even just talk to somebody, you want to talk to somebody when you're having a problem who you feel like is going to understand you. And, you know, that's just one more hurdle that, you know, Black people have. And throughout all of this that's been going on, I mean, I had been planning to do Soft Kitty as one of the Throwback Thursday colorways all along. But then when I decided to do it this week, I was thinking about everything that was going on, and I thought how stressful all of this has to be on top of just everyday life and a pandemic. And I really wanted to find a mental health cause that would support Black people. And so I found the Loveland Foundation, and I think it sounds like a really good organization. So I was able to make a $200 donation already to them from those initial 20 skeins that I had up in the listing. I will not be doing this for other Throwback Thursday colorways, but for this one I did add dye to order spots after all the original ones sold out, because I would like to maximize that donation as much as I can. So if you would like to get a skein of Soft Kitty, I can't even show you one. I'll put a picture in here somewhere, hopefully. I can't show you one because I shipped them all out already, the ones that were ordered. Actually, there's probably a couple in there because I think a couple got ordered along with some dye to order stuff. I didn't think about bringing it in, sorry. But I'll put the picture in. Anyway, if you would like to get a skein of Soft Kitty, and in the meantime also be supporting this really wonderful cause, I would love to dye up a skein of that for you. I'm going to leave them open for a while. I don't know how long I'll leave it up there, but it is still up there now. And yeah, I will continue to make a $10 per skein donation for as long as people are wanting to buy Soft Kitty for that purpose. So that's in the shop. I do not have another shop update planned right now, but stay tuned. Meanwhile, there are a lot of things in the shop. Like I said, there's a lot of in stock things that you can order. There's a lot of dye to order things that I'm getting turned around pretty quickly. And meanwhile, there are a lot of black makers and makers of color out there who would love to share what they have with you. Onyx Yarns is one of them. Like I said, I got this in my FibreShare package, but I've purchased yarn. I purchased yarn from her last year. I haven't used it yet. She's got just beautiful, very striking colorways, like colorways that speak to me because I like color. Anyway, so check out some black makers. There are a bunch of lists. I will try to link to some so that you can check them out. And I'm trying to think of some other ones. Lola Bean, Lady Dye Yarn, Neighborhood Fiber Company. Those are all ones that are coming to mind right off the top of my head. And then we also have the May drawing for the monthly makes program. So I will be doing a quarterly drawing as well as a monthly drawing next month, but I will do the May drawing now from the chatter thread. And we had posts 373 through post 444 in the chatter thread in the month of May, and random number generator chose, and I didn't write it down. Why didn't I write it down? Random number generator chose post number 416, who was Maria, Seductive Fairy. So congratulations, Maria. You are our May winner, and you get to choose between this skein of self-striping Bright Spots, which is, again, the Splash Pad Party colorway, or the self-striping skein of Color Play number 3, which is a much less bright, but still bright colorway. So both self-striping, these are both on the bounce base. So Maria, let me know when you know you won, and let me know which skein you would like, and I will ship that out to you. So congratulations. And thank you to everybody who's continuing to take part in monthly makes and who's continuing to take part in 20 and 20. All the chatter threads are so much fun. Yeah, please just come be a part. Whether you're taking part actively or not, we'd just love to have you be a part of our chatter and our community. So anyway, I think that's everything I have for you. Like I said, I goofed and didn't even finish my show notes for the shop news segment of the show because I'm so good at this. It's just been one of those days. I won't even go into it, but it happens. Anyway, I think that's everything. I will be back with you in a couple of weeks for another regular episode, but if I have a chance, I will put up another special episode in between. We'll see. I can't make any promises right now, but I'm doing my best. So anyway, if you have any comments or thoughts or questions about anything I talked about in this podcast today, I would love for you to comment in the YouTube comments. I'm trying to keep up with those and watch for them. I have been getting notifications a little bit more often, so maybe YouTube's fixing that. I don't know. But I'm trying to check every few days at least to see if there's any comments I haven't answered. You can always email me at fibrenymph@gmail.com. email.com, at gmail.com. Social media messages aren't always the best way to reach me. I can't promise I'll get back to you in a timely manner that way. Email is probably the best way to reach me if you need to have an answer or want to make sure that I see your message. Anyway, yeah, I hope you are having a nice week. I hope things are good for you. And you know, I just want to encourage you, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to speak up. When you see injustice, say something. Even if it's in a small way, every little bit helps, right? We gotta join together. So, have a good couple of weeks, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
So this is our garden. I just got done watering everybody. Everybody's doing so well. So we have flowers all along the perimeter. And then we've got bush beans. And here are 2 rows of herbs. So there's basil and cilantro. I don't usually have good luck with cilantro, at least not in pots, so we'll see if it does better in the garden. Okay, here's dill and sage and chamomile. And then we come to the peppers, which that one and that one are hot peppers, and the other 4 are sweet red bell peppers, I think. Red and orange, maybe, I don't know. They're sweet bell peppers. Tomatoes. These are big ones, and I think, I know I bought them, I should know, right? 2 of them are cherry tomatoes of some sort. They were all odd varieties that I'd never heard of before where we got them, but whatever, we'll try them. So then we have a row of sunflowers and a row of zinnias, and they're all coming up very nicely. And then we have squash, and that's zucchini. That was actually supposed to be acorn squash, but this is acorn squash, and my packet of seeds for the acorn squash had 1 seed in it. 1, and it is not germinating yet, so who knows. I actually have an acorn squash up in the kitchen, so once I cut that open, I'm probably going to bring a few seeds down and plunk them in the ground and see if they'll grow. But yeah, that's another zucchini, because you can never have too many zucchini. Actually, you can, but I like zucchini. So. And then these are spaghetti squash, which are coming along nicely. And the last time I planted spaghetti squash, I ended up with bazillions. So anyway, happy garden. Everybody looks nice except that one plant right there. He just always wants to lean over. We've tried propping him up several times, but anyway, we chose like a variety of flowers. I picked marigolds specifically because I'm hoping to keep the flower heads and dye with them at some point. We'll see. I've never tried that, but yep. So that is our humble little mountain house garden this year. Fingers crossed that it produces. Bye, garden. And there's the deck that we're going to be tearing off shortly and replacing. And Bill has already started painting. So that's the porch room where I record a lot. And all those shakes on there have already been repainted. So he's working on like soffit and fascia painting right now. Hey, Polly. Meow. 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 Hey, bud. Oh, okay. Beautiful night out. Very quiet and very peaceful. And I wish I could send a little bit of this piece to everybody, because you all deserve it. I love how the sunset lights up those pine trees.